Today, we're casting a sphere made of fine silver using a Delft clay mold. The process is simple in theory, but getting a clean result takes practice. Packing the clay, placing vents, and pouring the silver all demands attention. To be clear, you will never get as clean of a cast in clay as you will with casting investment. If you're expecting similar results, you will likely be disappointed. Still, Delft clay can capture fine detail, but without mercy, will also expose every minor error in prep work just the same. With that in mind, let's go over the materials list. For this project, you will need Delft clay to form the mold, a 2-piece frame to contain it, a hammer to pack the clay, large and small drill bits to form the sprue and vent holes, a knife to form the sprue funnel and channels, talc powder to keep the mold from sticking, a brush to spread the powder, a thin metal ruler to break up the clay, a marker, a crucible and torch to melt the metal, your model, which today is a sphere, and likely the most important part of all, your metal of choice, mine being fine silver. As we go through the process, be sure to take your time, and you must have attention for detail, because any missed flaws will turn into permanent silver reminders. Start by preparing your clay. Take your thin metal ruler and break up the clay into small pieces. The finer you get it, the more accurately it will record the details of your model. Large clumps will translate directly into imperfections later. So it pays to be thorough. Delft clay does not fix mistakes, but it does a great job of preserving them. With the clay prepped, it's time to get the mold ready. Begin by packing the bottom half of the mold tightly with clay. Once you have it tightly packed, take your ruler and scrape the excess off the mold. Now press your mold firmly into the clay, about halfway down. And then lift it back out. Take your talc powder and brush a fine layer across the clay. This will act as a releasing agent. Then place your model back and coat the model too. The two halves of the mold will now go together. Make an alignment mark across the halves with your marker. Trust me, if you forget this simple step, you will regret it later. Start adding clay to the top half, and make sure to tightly pack around the model. Mistakes usually show up at this step. Once finished, take your ruler and scrape off the excess clay. Now carefully separate the halves and remove the model. Once your mold is out, you will want to create a path for the molten silver, which is called a sprue. Take your large drill bit and make a hole in the top half of the mold. You will want to do this from the cavity side to prevent damaging your impression. On the top side, cut out a funnel for the pour. Skip this step, and you will likely end up with more molten metal on your workbench than you do in the mold. Now, flip the top half back over, and take your small drill bit and make holes around the impression. Next, cut thin channels from the impression out to the holes. This provides ventilation, allowing for a smoother pour of the molten metal, which hopefully will provide us with a full cast, and not something resembling abstract art. Now, inspect your mold very carefully. Minor repairs can be made with a small pinch of clay. Once everything looks good, reassemble the halves using your alignment marks. I'll remind you again, forgetting to make the alignment marks will lead to a lot of regret and plenty of swearing. Yeah, I wonder how I know that. Seriously, I'm placing a lot of importance on this step for a reason. I don't know about you, but I can live with a piece coming out a bit rough because I didn't pack the mold quite right. A little extra time for cleanup. But having a piece come out unusable because I didn't spend 2 seconds to make the mark is infuriating. End of rant. And the mold is now ready for the pour. I hope. Either way, it's time to see if we get a sphere or a permanent reminder of what not to do next time. Now, my favorite part, torch time. When you heat your silver in the crucible, keep your torch moving so the heat stays even. Once the silver starts to melt, add a little borax. This acts as a flux to help the metal flow. Continue heating until the silver stops clinging to the crucible and forms a tight, smooth ball. Moment of truth, the pour. You need a smooth, continuous pour. You only get one shot at this. No pressure, right? Hopefully the vent channels do their job and let the silver spread rapidly across the mold before it solidifies. Your metal may have about a second to fill the impression before it hardens. A quick disclaimer. What I'm about to do is not smart or recommended. I'm impatient to a fault. Please let your silver completely cool. Then separate the top and bottom halves of the mold. Remove the silver from the clay. And remember, Delft clay is reusable. Only the burnt parts need to be discarded. Alright, let's see the results. Straight out of the mold, I think it turned out pretty well. We have to cut the sprue off and do a little finish work, but as you can see, we do have a sphere. After a little spit shine, here is our final result. It may not be perfect, but then again, neither am I. Not too bad considering we made it by pouring molten metal into dirt. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.